Unless we are involved in Libya to kill Qaddafi, I don't believe we should have anything to do with it. That's been my position from day one. My other position with respect to Egypt was stay out of it. Not because I'm an isolationist, because Mubarak was an ally. Now let me boldly state that what's going on in the Middle East is not a democracy movement. It is Muslim killing Muslim. If it is a democracy movement, then where are all the democracy organizations and all the leaders and all their writings? Why don't we know who they are for the most part? Where are they? Why aren't they being interviewed? I'm a little concerned. On the conservative side, there's almost complete confusion and contradiction. They want to embrace the Bush democracy project. They don't trust Obama. Of course, I don't blame them. And they believe all people want democracy. Well, all people don't want democracy. For 5,000 years, some people have had it beat into them that their goal in life is to kill Jews and Christians. Not all, of course. They've had it beat into their minds, certainly in recent centuries, that the West is the enemy. Thousands of years of abuse and torture and murder and rape and indoctrination have an effect. So when I hear some conservatives talk about a democracy project, there would be no democracy in Iraq if we didn't go in there, spill American blood, kick some ass, and institute it. Time will tell how long it lasts. Time will tell. Let's hope it lasts forever. I said the other day we need a democracy project ourselves in Wisconsin. But that's a side point. But to hear some of these conservative hosts, listen to some of them in the morning as I drive around. 2 weeks ago, why aren't we in Libya? Why aren't we acting faster? And then it's, why are we going to Libya? Why? Come on, boys and girls, let's get our principles set. Let's get our thinking straight. America is an exceptional society. Most of the world, for most of mankind, has experienced tyranny in one form or another. I wish it wasn't the case. I really do. Even in Europe. Europe gave rise to National Socialism and Nazism. Europe gave rise to Marxism and communism. Tens of millions of people slaughtered in pursuit of what? An ideology. That's why we conservatives are so concerned about our own society and preserving it, because it's so unique, it's so magnificent. The idea that it can be projected on every other society or superimposed on every other society is absurd. That is not to say that when people truly do rise up and seek liberty against an enemy of ours, that we should not help these freedom fighters, as in Latin America, if it is in fact in our best interest. And most of the time it is. But I don't see this as freedom fighters rising up as they were in Nicaragua, as they tried in Iran to overthrow Qaddafi because they want to put some kind of a parliamentary system in or some kind of constitutional system. Where's that coming from? Other than our own magazines and the minds of certain bloggers. Where is that coming from? Where is their equivalent of George Washington? Where is Muhammad Washington and Ali Washington? Who the hell are they? Where is their statement of principles? Where is their draft Declaration of Independence? I'd love to read it. Where the hell is it? It's nowhere. Now, back home in the great United States, we're dealing with an administration that scares the hell out of me. It's stupidity, it's incompetence, it's ideology. That is a bad mix, and yet that's what it is. So today, I thought our goal was to save the Libyan people from their Libyan rulers, to save some of the Muslim population from some of the other Muslim population. I don't know how we know who's on first, who's on second, because the truth is we don't know. So 2 weeks ago, the president demands at Libya, Qaddafi, that he get out. And he goes and he plays golf. Then we're assured yesterday, no, it's a couple of days, and we're going to get the hell out of there. And then I looked today, White House suggested the mission in Libya is one of regime change, despite emphatic statements from Obama and military brass that the goal is not to remove Qaddafi from power. What the hell is the goal? I said yesterday, what the hell is the goal? I have no idea. Oh, I hear that echoing today all over radio. Well, good for the conservative hosts. Damn well about time. We shouldn't be embracing any ideology when it comes to foreign policy except one. What is in the best interest of the United States of America and our allies? That's it. That's our policy. And if we see genocide, then we should, if we can, do something about it. I see genocide in the Sudan and Congo, and I'll be honest with you, does that not rip at your heart and your soul? The hell are we doing about that? Nothing. Shouldn't we do something? I'm not talking about ground troops and air cover, but isn't there a way to encourage some countries, some freedom fighters, to deal with those regimes? I'd favor that. That moves America's soul, seeing those pictures of hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of women in these little villages being raped in a matter of 48 hours, gang rape. That is just too much. I'm not saying we can stop it everywhere, but can we not encourage the overthrow of these regimes? Of course we can. Reagan unleashed all kinds of power without sending forces into the Soviet Union, and the Soviet Union's gone today. There are different methods for doing different things with different countries under different circumstances. But to run around like a bunch of liberals, the democracy project, so, excuse me, sounds like Jimmy Carter. Human rights policies. I don't know what that means. Neither do they. Somebody define it. Tell us how we contain it. Tell us how we fund it. Tell us how many American boys and girls are going to put their lives on the line in a civil war where we don't even know who the hell's on what side. Now we have Obama, the most incoherent president on foreign policy I have ever seen. Don't give me Jimmy Carter this, Jimmy Carter that. This guy's 10 times worse than Jimmy Carter. And Jimmy Carter sucked. Jimmy Carter was a fool, an incompetent boob. This guy's an incompetent ideologue, which makes matters worse. Not only don't we know what the hell we're doing in Libya, we are surrendering our sovereignty to the UN, 4/5 of which is made up of nut jobs. Why would we take the greatest civilization ever known to man, ever, and surrender our sovereignty to an institution where 4/5 of the members are nut jobs? Well, we haven't. And then, oh, how historic and progressive it is. We're working with the UN. Working with the UN. Shut that damn place down. Kick those asses out of my country and turn that place into a condominium. Now we can be progressive. Those who actually believe in human liberty. We can work together. Then we can consult each other. Why are we consulting dictators of genocidal regimes? Who cares what they think? Don't we want them to drop dead? So, every time I turn around, I get an article like this. The Daily Mail. A female war photographer for the New York Times revealed she was repeatedly sexually assaulted during her nightmare hostage ordeal in Libya. You say, what? Lindsay Addario, who was one of 4 Times journalists, have now been released after being held captive by pro-Qaddafi forces. So we had one CBS reporter who was sexually assaulted by protesters against Mubarak, we think. We're not sure. And now we have a photographer who was molested by pro-Qaddafi forces. Maybe we should be dropping copies of the Declaration of Independence on the mobs, huh? What do you think that would do? We can put it in Arabic. Think that would take hold? Unalienable rights? Oh, Lord. Meanwhile, our government keeps putting the shoulder on Israel. Israel, which actually is a civilization, has been fighting these forces since its birth. And its people have been fighting these forces for 5,000 years. And because they want to build an apartment building in the West Bank, why are we even calling it the West Bank? It should be called Israel. But I'll do it for clarity purposes for the libs out there. And that is what's blocking peace. An apartment building. Not thugs, not barbarians, not rapists, not torturers, not hate mongers. No, an apartment building. An apartment building. Does that make sense to you? Unless we as a country face up to this threat and use our resources sensibly in knowing who to attack, when to attack them, if to attack them, we continue to build up the strongest military force on the face of the earth rather than stretching it thin and then cutting our funding legs out from under it. Well, over time, we're not going to survive. We're just not. Because the Middle East and the jihadi threat combined, that's only one threat that faces this nation internationally. Red China is on the move. It's getting muscular. It's getting aggressive. Its satellite countries like North Korea are getting aggressive. And I dare say we've reached a point that if Red China wanted to take Taiwan, I don't know what we'd do about it. This president wants to give up all of our nukes while he's cutting conventional weapon funding. He's hollowing us out again. And then, of course, our economy. Our economy is being destroyed, too. So that's what we face. This is what we face as a country. This is what and it's even worse. I'm not trying to upset you, but you think you've heard it all. And then you pick up the St. Petersburg Times, and you read that a local judge there has decided, for purposes of determining arbitration, we ought to use Sharia law. You're not going to believe this. I'll explain it to you when we return. You know, folks, Judaism, the birthplace of Judaism is the Middle East. The birthplace of Christianity is the Middle East, what we now call the Middle East. The birthplace of Islam is the Middle East. So why is it that Christians are being pushed out of virtually every country in the Middle East, including Iraq? Why don't they have the right to return? Why don't they have the right to property that they owned thousands of years ago? Why is it that the Jews are on a tiny strip of land, really, about the size of New Jersey, and that they're being told that they don't have a right to that? How did it come to pass? How did it come to pass, if you look at history over a period of time, that Arab Muslims have a right to every square inch of the Middle East? When did that happen? How did that happen? And how is that morally justifiable? Are we going to come to grips with history and the future as a result, or are we not? Democracy movement. Do you know what's going on now as I speak with the Muslim Fatah-controlled authority in Judea and Samaria, the West Bank areas? Well, I dug up an article. It's only a couple of years old, really. And I want to remind you. I want to remind you about what's going on as we continue to put American lives on the line for this. I'll be right back.
If you want to hear a repeat of Mark's monologue, you can go to MarkLevinShow.com or listen to one of the other radio hosts. Repeat it tomorrow. Call it now at 877-381-3811.
I also said yesterday, when you send American armed forces into a combat status, that you get your ass back here to the United States and you speak to the nation like a president and you speak to the armed forces like their commander-in-chief. Quit mucking around in other countries, doing this and doing that. Think this is some kind of a joke? You cut your trip short and you come home and you take care of business. Hey, what the hell is this? Is this a joke? Yes, because he's a joke. That's right, I said it. He's a joke. There's somebody else's family members going to war, not yours, sir. So you come back to the United States and you show respect to the American people rather than denouncing how we've behaved in the past when you're standing there at a news conference with the host country, Chile, and you show respect to our armed forces who you're sending into combat. And frankly, you show respect to the United States Congress as little as they deserve it. No, I don't believe you have a legal obligation to declare war. But you do have an obligation as the leader of the country to work with the different political and elected factions in this nation. And stop leaving it to everybody else to clean up your crap. Sits there, he puts out these missives, he puts out these proclamations, and everybody else has to figure out what he wants and what to do and rush around to take care of it. Never seen anything like it.